Getting your distribution style right is one of the most critical aspects to maintain a high-performance Redshift data warehouse. After putting a bunch of thought and experimentation into this portion of the topic, I was doing some final research online just to double-check some of my own findings, and honestly found a resource that should be required reading for this course, and even if you just are interested in Redshift table design at all. It's on the AWS blog and was written by one of the database engineers at AWS, a guy by the name of Zach Christofferson. And the series is called the Advanced Table Design Playbook. I've got a link to it here. So we're going to cover a lot in the next few minutes, but trust me, download that series as well. Several of the items that we're going to talk about are sourced directly from that text, and others I was just simply happy to see backed up our own conclusions. So the purpose of data distribution. As your cluster is usually made up of many individual node slices, distribution is simply the process by which Redshift spreads data across each node, or node slice. The intent of distribution is to take advantage of the massively parallel potential of Redshift, divvy up that work across slices and their dedicated cores and storage. At the end of the day, however, sooner or later, that data is going to come back together in the form of joins and relationships or aggregates. In other words, data may have to move between nodes during a step known as data redistribution. And this is where having the right distribution style makes all the difference. Quoting directly from the Amazon Redshift online documentation, the goal in selecting a table distribution style is to minimize the impact of the redistribution step by locating the data where it needs to be before the query is executed. Now, you can't always do this. It's actually going to be pretty impossible if you have any kind of diversity in your queries at all. But that's okay. If you focus on your business critical or heaviest queries, you're going to be way ahead. So we have three styles to choose from: the even style, key, and then all distribution. So let's get even out of the way quickly. It's the one you'll probably use the most, but for the worst reason. It's the one you use when neither of the other two makes sense. It's also the one Redshift will pick if you don't specify something else. Since your cluster is spread across nodes and node slices, when loading data into slices, the even approach is simply round robin. Add data to each slice around and around and around until all of your rows are fully loaded. This ensures that the data is spread across parallel slices for work, but as a distribution style will likely always require some amount of redistribution to satisfy most queries. Even distribution is kind of like when you buy vanilla ice cream, because, well, it's not the best, but it is safe, especially when you have one kid who doesn't like chocolate and another kid who doesn't like strawberry. In other words, if you have a valid reason for choosing one of the other two styles, and can do so without introducing a negative effect on other aspects of your query or total server workload, the most important being parallel processing, you're going to often see much better performance from one of these other two. But the flip side is choose wrong, and it will result in potentially far worse performance than if you had just left the default choice. A good way to identify where a different distribution style makes sense is by having some checklists. That article I referenced earlier has some very thorough ones. Again, do yourself a favor, go download it. But let's talk key distribution next and see when you'd use this and what kind of checklist I use to mark off items that clearly identify a good key choice. We'll use our Abacus Widgets data warehouse for this sample data.